Hello and good evening. I'm Melisa Idris. Welcome to The Future is Female. This is the show where we find the extraordinary in every woman. Now, I'm delighted to introduce my guest today, Yuki Aizawa, who is from the Women in Tech Global Movement. She is its Asia Pacific Director and Country Director for the Malaysian Chapter. Yuki, welcome to the show. It's good of you to join me. I'm glad that you made the trip and curious to learn more about women in tech.
Well, thank you for having me, first of all. It's my absolute honor.
Wonderful. Okay, so let's begin our conversation with learning a little bit about you and your journey and what led you to be involved with women in tech and makes you passionate about fighting for equality in STEAM fields.
Sure. So I'm Japanese origin, so that already speaks about the culture. And the first thing is about, I don't want to put it in this way, but cultural aspects of being put in place for women is so large. And that's one of the things I started in it, among other intersections of being a mother, being in corporate, being in international companies, and was in a banking IT company, and saw the disparity was huge, especially in the tech sector. Every time I'm in a conference, being invited as one of the speakers, you will see
a sea of men
exactly.
and men in
and
suits.
two of us.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, this is really something I have to look into. And then I went in to look around UN Women, Women Empowerment Principles, and I've won a small award, not small, UN Women, so national women in national level, Women Empowerment Principles, SME Leadership Commitment 2021 champion.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, that clearly resonates with you, but what led you to Women in Tech, that global movement? And also, tell us a little bit about the work that the Malaysian chapter is doing.
Sure. So that UN Women clearly kind of articulated that I've got voice, and then one door opens to another. And I was looking at, okay, when you have a voice, people will listen to you. And then I started my search to look at what can I do. And I met this Women in Tech Global Movement, and of course the process of opening a chapter in Malaysia started from there. We didn't have a chapter in Malaysia, and that's the history.
Wow.
And yeah, so Women in Tech is incepted in France with the mission of empowering 5 million girls and women in STEAM, so science, technology, engineering, arts now, and maths.
Yes.
So by 2030, so that's a hard number there.
Okay, that's not long to go. So we'll talk a little bit about the work then to achieve that goal. So what is the role of women in tech, not just the global movement, but also from a Malaysian context in trying to achieve the UN SDGs? That's a lot of women of girls and women that you're aiming to have be educated and move into careers in STEAM fields by that time.
Yeah, sure. So we are looking at 4 pillars in WIT, in short, Women in Tech. Our manifesto is classroom to boardroom. So we know there's always a leaky pipe somewhere along the line when we talk about the disparity. So the conversation has to start from very young at home and all the way when we see even graduates from the STEAM field, it doesn't translate to workforce. And even if it translates to workforce, we have a statistics that 40% will fall out of the job force in STEM field within the first 5 years. And that translates to the policies and the HR, the corporate sector, to look at policy, basically, culture, corporate culture. And then that boardroom, board level, as well as our manifesto classroom to boardroom, that comes in as well, because it gets thinner and thinner. Who survives after that? And we will have the leadership level, and then to the board level. And yes, we'll talk about other partnerships in the due course.
Yeah.
But that's
okay, so that's quite interesting. I love the from classroom to boardroom, because you're looking at it at every level of a girl to a woman's life and career stage. So what would you say are some of the challenges specific to girls and women in STEAM fields that you need to address? You talked about the 40% fallout from for STEAM subjects. What are the most pressing concerns here, Yuki?
Okay, I think that's why we are addressing from classroom to boardroom, as in when we do not have the leadership level to support the ecosystem, let's call it. There is no promotion, there is no decision-making level power, and it goes all the way down, and also we do not have role models and not enough role models. Hence, we are doing this awards, which probably we'll talk about it in a bit later, to get role models, basically to say, I want to be like her. But we don't have enough in that STEAM field that you can, whenever I ask people, like, okay, tell me about one CIO or CTO, you know, that you admire, and people will go like, ooh, I can't think of any, right?
Yeah.
So that's one. And then also going into the graduates again as well, not necessarily it translates to your degree equals the job that you're going to get. And so there's so many leaky pipes, and I can sit here and talk about it for 2 days.
Could we maybe look at, say, the classroom, right? What would it take to inspire and encourage young girls to pursue STEM subjects? So I know you're partnering with Project Girls for Girls, and they target quite a young demographic of girls. What is that collaboration like, and what are you focusing on when it comes to inspiring or encouraging girls to study in that direction?
Sure. With Girls for Girls, it is a little bit on, I would say, older segment, as in like 19 to 25 specifically.
So graduate side,
graduate sides, and deciding into which direction to go. Obviously, we are encouraging them to experience and pivot. So it's not like one career and that's all.
Yeah,
right?
like one track.
Exactly. You can move around, but so that's a specific 19 to 25, which is an important part as well. And we are envisioning a Harvard-born style 6 weeks cohort in boosting their confidence, to leadership, and of course the element of digitalization. And where we come in is we are going to get our mentees across Asia Pacific, but of course we are here, both Izana, the president,
yes,
and myself being here. So of course there's more, I would say, chance for Malaysian aspired ladies to be in the cohort, to be given the chance.
Wonderful. You mentioned role models earlier, Yuki. How would you describe the importance of having representation of women in STEAM fields, role models and mentorship? Talk to me about how you view that, the importance of those people in the public space.
Yeah. Having a role model is very important because it boosts your confidence, first of all. And I think it's typical for women to have this imposter syndrome, no matter how. And some people, there is two sides of the story. Some people say, no, we shouldn't have any excuses, and imposter is one of them that is not bubbling us. But I would say, even at our level, I'm sure, we go out there, talk to people, we doubt ourselves as well, right?
Yes.
So what we're trying to do with having all these role models, to be able to speak with leadership level ladies, that we are in a safe zone. I have this person to look up to who is by side, and I'm doing everything that is right, that she has gone through. And with the next generation, what we are creating right now, possibly we're not talking about it anymore, hopefully. So, yeah.
I hope so too. Which is why the Women in Tech APAC Forum and Awards is important. So the 6th edition of the Women in Tech Global Awards will be happening on the 16th of November. And it's important to acknowledge and recognize women's accomplishments and contribution in STEAM fields. Talk to me a little bit about why it's important that we do that and what role the awards play in this.
So the awards, we started to have the regional awards just last year. So this regional awards across 7 regions is just the 2nd edition.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so on the 16th of November, I'm traveling next week as well to Sharjah, UAE. All the 9 categories of finalists from each region will gather. And it is a great network as well, right? Just by that. And then we exchange ideas, sharing, and those inspiring leadership who won across the globe. Hundreds of participation from each region. And it's so important to recognize this in STEAM field especially, because we talk about the future, we're talking about tech and innovation. You can't move away from that. And we need definitely, in order for successful economy, for example, if we look at economy like Scandinavian countries, for example, those are very gender diverse.
Yes.
Workforce, for example, leadership level, politics as well, and so on and so forth. So that all translates back to the awards. I would say that we are honing into why we need to produce more of these role models.
Definitely. So we're going to take a quick break. We'll come back and continue this conversation on The Future is Female. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hi, welcome back to The Future is Female. I'm Melisa Idris and chatting today to Yuki Aizawa, who is from the Women in Tech Global Movement. It's Asia Pacific Director and Country Director for the Malaysian Chapter. So I want to talk a little bit about the collaboration and partnerships that you have with women in tech and other, with industry, with academia, with other stakeholders. Let's begin with some of the collaborations. Why is it important to engage with industry, and where do you see gaps in maybe having these partnerships to understand how we can stop this 40% fallout from the job pipeline?
Exactly. Definitely we can't do as a community, right? We're always talking about communities and collaboration. We have to have stakeholders ecosystem, because as we talked about the leaky pipe in all stages, we have to address from education, which is academia, partnership, all the way to universities, to even coding schools, to governments, because policies has to come in. To entice the corporates and private sector to incentivize, let's say, parental benefits. All of these has to come in. So the ecosystem needs to be collaborative, correct? So like academia, government agencies, corporates, NPOs, NGOs, communities, all of us have to get in the space. So
has it been difficult to foster those partnerships and collaborations?
I would say in the beginning, the first question when we launch is obviously, okay, who's this a non-profit international organization?
Right.
And so the first year was really about who we are. So I was sprinting, going out there every day, losing my voice, of course, talking, pitching who we are, what we're trying to do, 5 million by 2030, and the importance, the statistics. Obviously, there's always a debate. There's two sides of the coins, and to overcome that. So yeah, that has been the first year. Second year, I think they have seen what we have done, and of course the global and expansion in Asia Pacific as well. We're looking after, and Malaysia, I hope you'll be proud as well that we have a testament of our work, I would say, and we are now the regional HQ.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah,
that is something to be proud of.
Absolutely.
I think it's amazing, because when you think about trying to achieve this goal of 5 million women and girls, It's so many areas and different diverse fields, and at every level, as you mentioned, from classroom to boardroom. You need to have collaborations and partnerships with so many different people, and identifying where the gaps are and who can help, I think, is the challenge. Talk to me about some of the collaborations that you've fostered. The partnership with Headline Asia School is one that I'm interested in. It feels like a very important avenue for aspiring female entrepreneurs. So talk to me about this landscape of women and women in technology, particularly in entrepreneurship, tech entrepreneurship.
For sure. Every, obviously, country chapters have their own problems on the ground. So while we talk about the 4 pillars in education, advocacy, digital inclusion, and education, we are looking at one of the pillars, as we are going to talk about, is the startup scene, as well as female entrepreneurship, because the funding gap is a severe one. And during our forum and regional awards that happened 2 weeks ago, this was one of the talking points. So we were looking at Asia Pacific, but of course we had Pitch In Partnership and Headline. We notice, obviously, the funding gap is coming from the understanding of the VCs, so the supply and demand, I would say.
Okay.
So what we are enticing with the Headline School to produce more female venture capitalists aspiring, because then it will translate to more understanding from the VC point of view, to be more innovative, right?
Okay.
Like when you are having founders or entrepreneurs out there with projects, and to asking with the general partners in the investment committee, and if it's full of man VCs, would they understand something that the innovation came from a female founder? Maybe not.
So talk to me about what is the current, what are the current challenges now that women or female founders find themselves in when it comes to this funding gap?
So globally, it toppled down. It used to be, I think MAFCAP had the report as well within Malaysia. It was 4.4% in 2019. That the whole venture, the invested amount was only 4.4% into the female-led companies.
That's a terribly small figure.
That is actually a good number already.
Oh, really?
And globally, it toppled down after pandemic to less than 2% now, to 1.9. Ernst & Young, EY, Ravi Kitane, who was speaking at our forum as well, mentioned exactly that number, scary number. And so this obviously gets back to that VC sector, that funding part, that we need understanding from the VC side, which means we need to ramp up the number of the female VC. And obviously, for the aspired entrepreneurs and the founders, we need to empower them to speak like the male founder. Let's say, we're not using promotional language when we're pitching for investment, for example.
Is that something that needs to be taught? Like, is that a skill that needs to be honed in female founders, particularly maybe first-time entrepreneurs, maybe younger entrepreneurs? Is that something that can be honed?
Yes, I would say so. We have so many ways to do it within our program as well. We have Venture Builder, how do we craft our pitch, and versus to how to pitch like men. For example, just now I just mentioned as well, promotional vocabulary versus the disruptive vocabulary where the male VC wants to hear, perhaps.
I also love that there's, for the supply side, you're thinking about aspiring female venture capitalists. And I think that's also something that we need to look at. It's fantastic that you're looking at both sides of the coin.
I think Headline Partnership came in with that even with the schools, a couple of last cohorts, they told us that I'm seeing only a few in the class as a female venture capitalist, aspired venture.
Are you optimistic about the trajectory of the way things are going now? Often when I speak to people who are advocating for societal change, it often comes in very incremental, slow pace, and as someone who's within the scene, you can often lose hope, especially if you're talking about the same things over and over again without what seems to be little, much progress.
Yeah.
Are you optimistic that things are
Yes.
progressing in the right direction?
Yes, I am. I think, hence for Women in Tech, WIT, we have this Edison Alliance, which is an impact report under the World Economic Forum. We produce numbers, so impact counts, right? And also that's something that I'm a big believer of, something that gets measured, gets checked.
Yes.
So we go with that first of all, and of course that's why we're talking about technology at scale. Whatever we do, also from the cultural point of view, I think pandemic was also a shift from micro, especially in Malaysia. I understand that brick and mortar, they were devastated with what happened, but that turned into an opportunity. Now e-commerce platform came, and those who is staying at home can find multiple jobs, and so there are a lot of opportunities out there with AI. We talked about this as well, and green tech. It's all in the intersection of ESG as well, SDG, environmental,
social governance,
and sustainable development goals. All of these that the companies, the corporates are looking at checking. I hope it's not just whitewashing, greenwashing, and for social component, we call it purple washing.
I didn't know it was purple. Okay, good.
So it's not just checking the box, but by means of making it more achievable by, again, reports. I am going with the measurement
impact of that.
Yeah,
I'm
so
glad that you brought that up, because we don't want a checklist, a tokenism in these types of work. When we think about DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, it goes beyond gender, and it's intersectional in its approach. How does WIT think about that, about incorporating women of all backgrounds to make sure that they have access and equity in STEAM fields?
Absolutely. I think this is a bigger chance for anyone to be included, because, as you said, people of disability, we have a remote chances to work as well, or culturally they should be staying at home, but you have a laptop at home and you can actually access to more works. Or we have just been talking with the French Chamber as well. We are looking at something like senior in tech, for example. So
I love that.
Yes, exactly.
So it's not ageist, it's inclusive of all ages.
Exactly. Sometimes with tech innovation, the matured sector of group of people feel that they're excluded. They are often maybe with a personal assistant, and they're doing everything for them, and they fall out of this as well. And they would say, like, I would want to be able to use all these new tools. So I think these are all the talk about the inclusivity, I would say.
So in the couple of minutes that we have left, Yuki, how can our audience today, the individuals, the organizations, the public who's interested, wants to get involved, wants to support the work that Women in Tech does, how can they find out more, or how can they support?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for that. For individuals, of course, we have social media and we have memberships. It's for free to join and connect to the global. Right now, we have about 50 chapters, and it will grow into 100 chapters, which means 100 countries. So you can be members, and for corporates and communities and governments, we are really, really waiting for any help that we can resort to, or more like collaboration, give and take, to make this gender parity happen. Please reach out to us. We have a website or our social media. I'm sure we would be able to connect.
I'm going to sign up after this.
Thank you so much, Melisa.
Thank you so much for being on the show, Yuki. It's been a joy talking to you.
Thank you. It was a real pleasure.
That's all we have for you on this episode of The Future is Female. I'm Melisa Idris, signing off for the evening. Thank you so much for watching, and good night.